Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to have Miss Anna here for Profitable Pursuits. So, Anna, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. I'm super excited to be here too.
Yes. So for those who are new to you or maybe not familiar, can you just give us a background? Give us the 411. Like, what do you do? Who are you? How do I know you?
I love it. I love it. Well, I am a licensed mortgage loan originator. I'm licensed in several states. My company's licensed in all 50. And what I do is I help people finance their dream homes. So sometimes investment properties as well, or secondary homes. And the short version of that is I do a lot of paperwork. A lot of paperwork. So, but we know each other because I helped you with a couple of your purchases, and it was a really great transaction. You're wonderful to work with as well. And that's really it. I'm supposed to be an accountant, but here we are doing mortgage instead.
I love it. I have a funny story about that. So, my father-in-law, the first time I worked with you,
Mhm.
he was our realtor, and I go, I really just we've bought in a few houses at this time. I feel like we're getting to be pros. And I
Mhm.
go, I really just liked our experience with Anna. It
Mhm.
was like way back when, I think the first time we worked with you. And he goes, well, of course you do, Cheryl. She works just like you do. I was
That's a
like,
great compliment.
I was like, that's probably it. Anna is on top of it. She is responsive. She is informative and also like, hey, just give me X amount of time and then I'll get you the answer. And then that time you have your answer. It's an amazing experience. So that's just like my fun fact story.
Right. I actually I love that, and that's such a huge compliment coming from you. And I actually had someone messaging me earlier. I'm actually in the process of buying a house right now myself. So that's kind of weird to be like on the other side of it, right? And I was messaging about, feeling weird because I'm not doing like all the updating because I'm the client. And the agent was like, "Oh, well, your communication is unmatched." And to me, and probably in your business as well, I would prefer to answer the question before it's asked because it makes my life easier, as
Yeah.
well as it makes everyone's experience easier. So I think one of the things that you wanted to talk about was like structure and systems and stuff, right?
For sure. We are 1,001% going to dive into it because yours are the best. Before we jump into that, how long have you been in the mortgage loan world?
Yeah, so I have been licensed in New York since December 1st of 2014. So what is that? Just a little over 9 years.
A
And
while.
actually, yeah, it's interesting. It went like this and also feels like a really long time ago, right? But it really kind of funny, and people might enjoy this backdrop. After I graduated from Indiana University for accounting and marketing, I rode racehorses all over the world, and that's how I ended up in Saratoga Springs. And then I loved it here, Saratoga Springs, New York. And so I was like, okay, I'll get back into banking, and kind of fell into the mortgage space that way. Thought I'd just take loan applications, super easy, right?
Super easy. Is it normal, traditional for people to stay in this career path for that long, or is there a high turnover rate?
Yeah, it's very similar to real estate agents. So I think I can't remember the exact stats, but you could Google it. The majority of real estate agents and loan officers don't make 2 years, right? And I think that's probably pretty similar to any small business, that they don't typically survive that 2 year mark. So anybody that's been in more than a couple of years, it's like high five, you're probably going to make it. You know what I mean? So.
For sure. And we'll hit on that. A big thing I say is since we talk all about being profitable, you have to stop pivoting back and forth. And those who are successful, like ride the waves and they
Mhm.
just keep going. Do you think that's a fair statement for your career life?
100%. The people that quit, just have you seen that meme? And it's like the guy and he's like mining for diamonds, and he's like and there's one on top, and he stops and he turns around and he's all discouraged, and like a foot later the guy finds the diamonds. And I feel like that's really, you have to be willing to, I hate to say the words take the abuse, but take the abuse of running and owning a small business, basically, and not stop, because it's usually right when you stop that the greatest things, right before you stop, that the greatest things happen, right? You know what I mean?
For
Like,
sure.
for sure, that
You
meme
have
is
to
so
give
big.
yourself time to be known for something.
Yes, it takes time.
And I think like just my example of working with you directly, like I don't go to anyone else first. Like,
Right.
hey, is this in your wheelhouse? Yes, no. This state in your wheelhouse? Yes, great.
Mhm.
Um, but if you constantly pivoted, you wouldn't be known for that thing. So people just know where to go.
Or like, I see a lot of folks in like the real estate space, and this is probably going to offend some people, but you know what, whatever. The truth hurts sometimes. If you're spreading yourself like, oh, I'm going to sell real estate or I'm going to do mortgage and I'm going to sell, I don't want to pick on like somebody that does like makeup line, but you have to pick something and go at that with like all of your effort and make yourself successful and known for that before you, in my opinion, should be diversifying your income. With the exception of maybe rental properties, because you're not really
Right.
promoting a rental property, right? So that's just my opinion. There's a lot of people in, especially the real estate space, that the side hustle nightmare or whatever. And you can't really truly be great, in my opinion, without throwing yourself 100% into something for a length of time.
A length of time, and that's usually not 6 months. I totally agree. See, I knew you and I would agree. For those who aren't familiar, and you're okay with talking about it, can you just share how are mortgage officers, how are you paid? Is it salary? Is it commission? Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit to that?
So there's several different answers to that. And I'll start kind of with how I'm paid, because there's multiple ways. Like if anybody's listening to this and they're like, man, I really want to get in a mortgage. God bless you. But I really want to get into mortgage and I really want to hack that out. There's multiple ways that you can, originate mortgages. For me, I work for a private independent lender, secondary lending. And we also do some brokering. But how it works is I work for that one company and that company pays me when I fund the loans. So I get paid basically 1% on anything that I fund, the loan amount, not the purchase price. So
So for
that's,
those who aren't familiar, is that fair to say a commission, a percentage of
yes,
the,
100% commission. There is, if I don't close a loan, I don't really get paid. They have to pay me a certain amount, but then I owe that back in like the next set of commissions. So it's a draw commission pay. There are banks that you can work for where they're going to pay you a base salary with small bonuses for loan closing. If you want to get into this business to make money, that is not the way to make the most money, right? Because you're going to be limiting what you can make commission wise. And then the other way that you can do it is by owning your own brokerage, being like a mortgage broker. And that usually is a higher rate of pay per transaction, but then you have to pay all of your insurance, do all of your compliance, auditing, payroll, hire, fire. And when I looked into my soul, last year I had an opportunity to potentially buy a brokerage. And I was like, do I really want to do that stuff I don't want to do? Like that paperwork stuff, I didn't want to do it. So I was like, I'm going to stick with letting my bank handle that for now and just stay as commission only.
yeah, so you're literally, you run your own business working
Did.
for,
Yep. So if I
is that
went,
fair?
and I think actually I've helped you at a couple of different banks as
Yeah,
well.
I follow you.
And that's how most people work, right? Like they're not working with me because I work for Movement Mortgage. I'll say this company has like a higher purpose than a lot of other banks do. But if I move myself to 123 ABC Mortgage, my base of folks I work with follow me typically.
Now let's talk about your team real quick, because you have an amazing team who really has obviously great leadership, but also like you can tell it's structured. So are they a part of your business or are they a part of movement? Like who pays them, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, not at all. Transparency, I think, is really big in anything financial, right? Which I'm sure you agree with. So how my team is typically structured, the way that my current setup is, my processor, who is, the person that takes it from approval to closing, so that last bit of paperwork, she's fully paid for by the company, and then I bonus her accordingly, like out of my own pocket, which is not tax wise the best way to do it, as I'm W-2'd. So you can tell me on that one. But that's how we operate. My processor is fully paid by them, fully has all her insurance, time off, vacation paid for by the company. And then my junior loan officer, which is like a carbon copy of me, kind of, they do a lot of the same things that I do. They're paid completely out of my commission. So I pay them 100% their funds, but the company pays their insurance, their time off, that kind of thing.
So it's kind
And
of
then
like
go ahead.
benefits of both worlds.
Yes. And then my loan officer assistant, they get paid a base salary by the company and then bonused over and above by me out of my commissions. So it's kind of like a mix, depending on the role that the person is playing on the team. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. And is that different per each lending institution? Like you're with Movement, if you went to a different one, it could be a whole different process. Is that fair?
Yep, it could be different, and the structure can change over time as well. Like as the team grows, you want to financially incentivize people to do their job, right? Like,
Sure.
yes, we all go to work and stare at a computer all day out of the goodness of our hearts, but we also want to get paid, right? So, being
Yes,
able to restructure and work with a company that will allow you to kind of restructure is important. So
for sure. Okay, thanks for clarifying that for us. What let's there's like no right or wrong answer, but I'm very curious. When we look into the entrepreneurship world, those who are commissioned, you hear, especially now, a lot of this like, don't hustle, protect your time and boundaries. Do you think you can get to that like uber successful, multi-million dollar, like we have it, I like to say like FU money, without the initial hustle?
So I can only speak for what I did. I can't kind of go back and make a guess as to how it would be different. In my opinion, you have to run at it for several years where it is the only thing that you care about every day, like, which sounds terrible because, of course, I had other things I cared about, my family and my pets and,
Sure.
you know, taking care of myself, but I barely did that the first few years, honestly. So like in my opinion, you have to really give 120%. I know that's not possible the first few years. And then now that I've established myself and people know who I am, now it's really a lot about protecting my time and my boundaries. Stuff that I would have done 10 years ago, 9 years ago, that's a big F no. And now it's a lot more about, is it an F yes? Is it going to build my business? Is it going to bring me, purpose or satisfaction? Or is it a big F no? I am not doing that. No way. You know what I mean? And now that's going to propel further. If I would have started out that way, I don't know. I don't think it would have grown quickly enough to stay in it,
Hey,
you know?
for
I don't
sure.
know.
I keep seeing the conversation now is all like protect your time, protect your boundaries, self-care. And I'm 1,001% for it. Like, yes.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for that uber success, I personally don't know anyone who's been to what I would call uber success without
Mhm.
that initial hustle.
Oh, yeah. Or like, I'm just like thinking about it now while we're having this conversation. It's like you have to make, especially in like mortgage, real estate. I mean, there's 18 gajillion real estate agents and
Yeah.
18 gajillion mortgage loan officers. So you have to be the one that's going to go that one step ahead, one step better, do provide that much more value. And you, even to this day, like I think that I haven't really gotten better about, it's not even getting better about boundaries. It's about deciding, yes, that's something that I really need to do because that's going to be worth me doing it or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that 80/20 rule,
Yes.
where like 80% of your outcome comes from 20% of the work, but identifying that 20%,
Right.
I
Um,
constantly work on that.
When my first year here in Saratoga, I think I met with like 1,000 people. I'm not joking. I had coffee, two or three. I'd stack my coffee appointments. I'd have coffee with an agent, a coffee with a real estate attorney, coffee with a CPA, and I'd stack them all together. I'd be at the coffee shop all day. And now I'm like, I I look at, okay, who wants to meet up? Is that going to be worth saying no to something else? Because everything you say yes to is definitely a no to something else. So if it's not, then I either put them off till I have more space or whatever. It's really more, I still have boundaries, but not for things that are really important, if that makes sense. If it's
Yeah.
like, this is the thing I need to do, this is the one thing today that is going to propel my career, then yeah, I'm not getting off the phone at 7 o'clock at night. I'll stay on the phone till 8:30. That's the one thing this week that I do. And then I'll take Sunday off or Friday afternoon off and go ride my horse or something, you know?
I love this conversation because we have a lot of beginning business owners, and I want them to hear the other side of it, that it's not just roses, it's not just 20 hours a week. A-
Not
In,
even
I
close.
think we're going year five or year six here. You've been at it for 9 years.
Mhm.
It starts with some work and some hustle.
Mhm.
And we're in a time and age where people don't want to say that.
Yeah, it has been interesting. All of these the social media, right? And I love your social media. It
For
is
sure.
awesome. My social media, you guys can follow me on YouTube, Instagram. I think I have a TikTok, but I really need to
They'll
get
all
more
be down
focused on.
below, people.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. So you know, there are so many videos, 1 minute video out there. This is how you're going to grow your business. Okay. All right, cool. Yes, I can agree with some of that stuff, but there is no substitute for blood work, sweat, and tears into the business. And even if you look up units and mortgage volume, the data on what happened over the last few years, there were times in 2023, I mean, I'm very well established, where it was hard. And I had to work 10 times harder to close one transaction than I ever did in 2020. And I had to teach myself how to be a loser again, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Like, oh, I'm losing. It used to be every 10 people I talked to, I'd close 3 transactions. And then for a while there, it was like I had to talk to 20 people to close 3 transactions. And that's hard on an ego. Like when you think you're wonderful, you're like, oh
yeah,
God. So you
I
have
get it.
to be able to go back to hustle mode when you have to make your business survive too. It's not just smooth sailing now at 9 years.
Yeah. Um, I love to talk about profits, putting more of the money into your personal account, but at the end of the day, we can't do any of that. We can't do expense management if we're not bringing in top of the line sales, if we're not bringing people in the door. So what is your advice to someone to bring someone in the door, like to get the sale?
To
What's
get the sale, oh gosh, that'll look a little different depending on what you do, right? For me, it is, well, like you mentioned before, having structure, a follow-up system. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's very true. What is it, like 7 touches before you get a yes or something? Um, I have I use Salesforce is my CRM, and it's all structured. So like, let's say I lose a client due to interest rate. Who knows? Okay. I plug them in, and 2 weeks before closing, my system automatically checks in, how you doing with your lender? Because you would be really surprised how often, yes, they left for an interest rate, but that other lender is not good at their job and can't get the loan closed. So like putting structures in place for automatic touch points and follow-ups are huge. And also being the absolute best at your job. Like, you could ask me anything you want to about mortgage right now. If I don't have an answer for you immediately, I'll get you the answer, like you were saying. But I also spent time getting certified as a mortgage planning specialist and actually studying my craft and going to mortgage conferences. So people can tell when they talk to me that I know more than the person that gets paid 50 grand to work at Bank of America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be great at it and have a system for follow up. Those are my two, you know, biggest things I would say.
I love those.
Mhm.
When I come into it, I always try to guess what I think the person's going to say based on my interaction or knowledge of them or lack thereof. I thought you were going to say relationship building because you're
Well,
very big on that.
yes, that's true. I mean, relationship building to me, in sales is the basis of everything. So I guess, like, of course, I hustled and I met all these people. So, it didn't come top of mind because this year for me, making that sale has
Yeah.
been be better than your competition and have great follow-up. So the relationship piece, you can't give that up no matter what, forever and ever and ever more.
I love that you talked about the follow-up and being the expert. We have the pleasure of working with tons and tons of businesses and seeing who makes money and who, quite frankly, doesn't.
Mhm.
And the people who make money are the experts. They don't ping pong. It's this ping ponging, which is killing business owners or your desire when you keep seeing that shiny object and switching.
Absolutely. And I've seen, actually been personally involved in a few businesses when I was younger where, the one-stop shop mentality. Like I see people that are real estate agents and mortgage loan officers and they sell insurance. And it's like, how can you be freaking good at any of that? I couldn't go out and show houses to people and also be able to manage people's rate locks. Like I couldn't do it. So spreading yourself too thin on what is to me a killer, right? So,
I
and
think
that
it's
goes for
also
any,
a sign that that person's just hoping for something to work because when it works, you don't stop.
right.
Right.
Exactly. For sure,
Right.
for sure, for sure.
You have to get paid for sure. One of my absolute favorite things about the internet is the opportunity to meet and have conversations that you wouldn't normally have. And also, I find it personally really inspiring to hear what others are doing and their big goals and their big dreams. So if you're cool with it, can you share some of your big goals, your big dreams? What are you working towards next?
Oh gosh. Okay. So, a big one now is to build the team to find, you know, as everyone probably would say, it's really, really hard to find great help, like great people that want to partner. Um, and everybody, it does feel a little bit like in sales, people come on board, they learn a bit, and then they think, oh, I can go be Anna. Like I can go do this myself, right? Not knowing the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. So one of the biggest goals is finding partners. I wouldn't even say like teammates, I wouldn't say employees that really want to go forward into the future because this business is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you do the math on that and how many employees really that you have to actually have that coverage or seem to have that coverage. So finding a partner that really wants to grow and kind of retire with each other, bounce off each other's um, businesses would be wonderful. Um, but also getting to a point where my work schedule can be most weeks a normal work schedule also, right? Like taking vacations. I've traveled a whole bunch. I've been so many places, but not really in the last 9 years. So it'd be nice to be able to grow, to be able to travel, and then also grow the business to where my team can profit, right? Where they're seeing their dreams come true, where they buy their lake house and knowing that I've helped to make that happen for them. And then really ultimately the long-term goal is I'm really into reading those FIRE blogs, financial independence, retire early blogs. Love that stuff. Huge advocate of budgeting and YNAB. I don't know if you're into those. But really I'd love to be able to retire before I'm 50. I wouldn't really retire,
I was
but
like, there's no way.
The FU money, where it's like, okay, I've set myself up. Now I can either continue with mortgage or manage that from, semi-distance, or I can open, XYZ other business or whatever. That freedom to me is very motivating. I had ugly experiences in my 20s where bad relationship and they basically were like, well, don't forget who pays the bills. And I said, all right, I will never again have anybody else that I have to depend on to pay my bills. So that's always a fire that burns, right? So
Absolutely. I love that. Where can people follow along your journey? Where can they find your social media? You're really funny on social. Like, obviously, I'm not in the mortgage world, but like sometimes I was like, maybe I should be. This is so interesting the way you put it out there.
yeah, come do some mortgages. Let's partner up. The land of social media, I've always made it really personal. Like you said, the relationship building, you will find more on my personal page than you will on any of my business pages because that's where I get the most interaction, being a real human being. Um, but I have Anna Smith Team on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find me Mortgage Chick. Well, I'll send you all the links. But it's I try to make it educational. My YouTube channel is probably the most educational spot to find me, where it's pretty much all business there. So
Yeah.
I think
I
that's the
love the personal reels you do. I learned so much about real estate and just like interesting. And then my favorites when we get a glimpse of the horse.
Oh yeah, he's so cool. He's so fun. That's my therapy. My cell phone doesn't work very well at the farm, so it's great. I can be like, "I'm
Perfect.
sorry, bad service. Call you later," which is great because you do need a break sometimes.
Um,
And it's a big horses have been the catalyst for my whole life, for all of my success leaving Indiana and traveling and ending up in New York, which, I met my significant other. I mean, it's really the underlying reason for how everything has turned out for horses. So still
I
part.
love that. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for taking the time to share with us today. I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. It's been fun.